1959, the last passenger train ever scheduled to serve Ballybofey and its twin town of Stranraer pulled out of the station and did not come back. No ceremony marked the occasion beyond what the closure of any rural railway line typically received at the time, which is to say, almost none. The County Donegal Railways narrow gauge line, which had connected this stretch of the county to the wider Irish rail network for decades, was wound down as part of a broader national contraction of uneconomic rural lines, and Ballybofey has been without a working train station for well over 60 years since. That closure did not simply remove a convenience, it removed a fundamental piece of the town's economic infrastructure, the kind of connection that had allowed goods, workers, and visitors to move in and out of this part of County Donegal without depending entirely on the road network. And more than 6 decades on, the consequences of that loss are still measurable in ways that go well beyond nostalgia for the old station building itself. Here is the current state of the town's commercial health, according to the most recent available data. GeoDirectory's fourth quarter report for 2025 recorded a commercial vacancy rate in Ballybofey of 33.6%. That means roughly 1 in every 3 commercial units along the town's main streets currently sits empty, a figure high enough to place Ballybofey consistently among the most vacant town centres tracked anywhere in the country. Here is where most coverage of this statistic gets the framing slightly wrong though, and it is worth correcting directly. Ballybofey's 33.6% vacancy rate, as severe as it is no longer the single highest in Ireland. That distinction now belongs to Shannon in County Clare, which recorded a commercial vacancy rate of 34.5% in the same reporting period, narrowly overtaking Ballybofey for the unwanted title of the country's emptiest town centre. That shift matters for accuracy, but it does very little to change the practical reality facing Ballybofey's own shopkeepers and property owners, who are dealing with a vacancy crisis that remains among the worst in the country, regardless of exactly which town currently holds the top spot. The connection between the 1959 rail closure and today's vacancy figures is not a simple, single-cause relationship, and it would be dishonest to present it as one. 6 decades separate the two events, and plenty of other factors have shaped Ballybofey's retail economy in that time, from the broader rise of out-of-town shopping centres and online retail affecting town centres right across Ireland, to the specific economic pressures facing County Donegal as a border county that has historically struggled with weaker connectivity to the rest of the state compared to counties positioned closer to Dublin. But the loss of rail connectivity in 1959 removed one of the town's structural advantages at a moment when it could genuinely have used every advantage available. And that loss compounded quietly across the decades that followed, contributing to a slower, harder recovery from each subsequent economic downturn than towns with better transport links typically experienced. Here is what makes Ballybofey's story worth telling now, rather than simply filing away as another statistic of rural Irish decline though. The town is not passively accepting that vacancy rate as its permanent condition, and the investment currently being directed toward it is real, specific, and already underway, rather than merely promised. €4.1 million in roadworks has been confirmed for the Ballybofey and Stranraer area, funding aimed at improving the local road network that has, in the absence of any rail alternative for over 60 years, become the town's only practical connection to the rest of County Donegal and beyond. That investment addresses one of the most commonly cited practical barriers to attracting new business into the town centre: the difficulty and inconvenience of moving both goods and customers in and out of a town that lost its rail link 2 generations ago and has depended entirely on road infrastructure ever since. Far more significant, at least in long-term potential, is a bypass project currently in planning that is part of a broader 10T road improvement scheme, including links to the A5 and N56, which carries a combined estimated cost of up to €1 billion. A project of that scale, if it proceeds through to completion, would fundamentally reshape traffic flow through Ballybofey and Stranraer, redirecting through traffic away from the town centre and potentially opening space for exactly the kind of public realm improvements and commercial regeneration that towns with severe vacancy problems typically need in order to reverse course. It is worth being precise about where that bypass project currently sits though, because planning stage announcements and completed infrastructure are two very different things, and rural Ireland has no shortage of ambitious road projects that spent years, sometimes decades, moving through planning stages before either breaking ground or quietly stalling altogether. The €1 billion overall project figure represents a serious, credible commitment of intent from the relevant transport authorities, not a completed or even a currently under construction piece of infrastructure, and residents who have watched previous transport promises move slowly through the Irish planning system have understandable reasons for a degree of measured patience rather than immediate celebration. What is different this time, according to those tracking the project locally, is the combination of the smaller, already confirmed roadworks funding alongside the larger bypass planning, suggesting a layered approach rather than a single project the town's future depends entirely on. Smaller, immediate improvements paired with a larger, longer-term structural change gives Ballybofey two separate paths toward addressing its vacancy crisis rather than one, which matters considerably if either path moves more slowly than currently hoped. Walk through Ballybofey and Stranorlar today, and the evidence of both the problem and the effort sits side by side along the same streets. Shuttered shop fronts, some empty for years, stand within view of active road improvement works and planning notices for the larger bypass scheme. A town simultaneously carrying the visible cost of a 65-year-old infrastructure loss while also actively building toward whatever comes next. Whether €4.1 million in road improvements and a bypass still in planning, part of a wider €1 billion regional investment, prove sufficient to meaningfully close a 33.6% vacancy gap remains an open question that only the next several years of data will answer honestly. But Ballybofey is not a town that has simply accepted decline as inevitable, and the combination of confirmed near-term investment and a genuinely significant long-term infrastructure plan gives this Donegal town a more credible path toward recovery than many places carrying similarly severe vacancy statistics currently have. If this look at what happens to a town after it loses its rail connection was interesting to you, please subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone from Donegal who remembers the old railway. Let us know in the comments whether you think the